Hi everyone, I am Thibault Lestan. I'm a research software engineer in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Oxford, where I am a member of the Oxford Research Software Engineering Group. This video is an introduction to the Oxford Code Review Network, and in this video I will be telling you about, first of all, what is the Oxford Code Review Network, how does it work, and how you can participate in it. The Oxford Code Review Network is a transdisciplinary network that enables researchers at the University of Oxford to connect to other researchers at the university to do code reviews together. It's designed to be informal, it's designed to be easy to get involved with, and not to take up whole afternoons of your time, but rather 1 hour here and there. By participating in the Code Review Network, you'll become a better research programmer, and better research software means better research. So we're all researchers at Oxford, whether you are a graduate student, whether you are a postdoc or a senior professor, and although we are scattered across departments and divisions, well, most of us write code. That's especially true in STEM subjects, but not only. It doesn't matter if you're developing a large data analysis or simulation software. It doesn't matter if you distribute that software to colleagues or other researchers in other research groups. You could also be just writing a few lines of R or Python to do some data wrangling, and you'll never share that with anyone else. It doesn't matter. If you write code for your research, then you are a research programmer. And as a research programmer, you're probably facing a range of difficult questions like, are the programs that you write doing what you want them to do? I'm sure that you're all testing your software, whether it's manually checking that you're getting the expected answer, or better, using systematic and automated testing. But how can you be more confident that you've tested everything? How can you be more confident that when you come back to that same piece of code in 3 months' time to solve a slightly different problem, things aren't going to crash because of some edge case that you did not consider at the time, or maybe that you just could not consider at the time because you hadn't done the research to consider it? The second question, the second point is that there are a lot of ways to write software, and some are clearly better than others. So how do you find out if you are following the best practices? On top of that, there are also a huge number of tools out there. So how can you be more confident that you are using the right tool or the right set of tools for your type of project and the programming language or the programming languages that you write in? And finally, well, the world of software is changing really, really fast. That's clearly an understatement. And the problem is that as a research programmer, you just don't have the time to keep track of everything. So how can you stay up to date? A good way to find answers to these questions is to do regular code reviews. A code review is something that's very simple. It's basically just a conversation over a piece of code. And this conversation usually involves the author of the code and one or several reviewers that are looking to constructively criticize the code. There are several ways code reviews can work, and if you're familiar with GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, you've probably already encountered code review as somebody proposes some changes to a code base, and then there's an ongoing discussion using messages over these changes. And at the end of the review process, which can take days, weeks, and even months, these changes are either accepted or rejected. That's a model that works really great for projects, for open source projects, for instance, where developers are scattered all around the world in different time zones. But that's not at all what we are going to talk about here for the Code Review Network. Instead, we are talking about code reviews that are informal, that are short, and code reviews that are connecting people researchers who otherwise would never meet but still have a lot to share. So we're talking about code reviews that are about having a real-time conversation between the author and the reviewer. For instance, the code author may start by briefly describing the context around the code, in a way that's understandable by a non-specialist, obviously, and then walk the reviewers through the code. And a reviewer's job is to listen, is to ask questions and make comments. It's basically to force the reviewer to describe the code as accurately as possible. And you'll often notice that while they do so, it's often the author themselves that will notice the problems or the things that they want to change or that they want to improve. In the end, you should just quickly reach a state during a code review where you're just having a nice conversation about code, and that's what it's all about. The first obvious motivation for code reviews is to identify bugs and defects that could have slipped through your tests. But there's much more to code reviews than just hunting bugs. By doing code reviews regularly, you found out about how other research programmers in a university write software. You found out what tools they use, you found out what practices they follow, and on top of that, you can also share your own experiences with them, your own tips, your own tricks. Now, if you're a beginner programmer, you're going to benefit from the experience of others. So you're really going to learn a lot and much faster than if you were learning on your own. If you're a more experienced programmer, well, code reviews are a great way to grow your skill set and to expose yourself to different ways of writing software, to different ways of solving problems, and that's just going to make you an even better programmer. So whatever your level of experience, doing code reviews is a fantastic way to develop your software skills and to write better software. But let me digress just for one moment. What is better software? Well, better software is software that's more readable, either by your colleagues or by other researchers in other research groups, but also, and importantly, by yourself at a later stage. Readability of your code is also a crucial step for someone that's trying to reproduce your research. So it's a crucial point to make your research reproducible. Better software also means software that's more maintainable. For instance, if your program relies on a library or a package that's managed by a third party, maybe another research group, well, some features of that package may very well get deprecated at some point, and it's very important that your software can be easily made up to date. And that's especially important for the coming generations of students and postdocs that will either reuse or build upon your code. Better software also means software that's easier to share, and by that I mean that it's going to be straightforward for other researchers to use your software in their research. For instance, if you make changes to your software, well, you want to make sure that other researchers whose research depend on your software get notified and also have the possibility of very easily using the latest version or the version they want. And lastly, better software means software that's more extendable, meaning that it's straightforward for others, or again, yourself, 6 months down the line, to build upon your software and to adapt to new applications so that you don't have to, or so that they don't have to start from scratch each time. So by enhancing readability, enhancing maintainability, shareability, extendability, well, that's going to make your software better, but also, and more importantly, it's going to make your research better. It's going to make your research more efficient, it's going to make your research easier to share and disseminate, it's going to make your research more reproducible. But we're still in that huge university where communications across departments and divisions aren't exactly straightforward. If you're based in physics and you write some Python, there are surely people in the Nuffield Department of Medicine, for instance, that could give you feedback on your code and tell you what they think of your programming style, etc., etc. And there are surely Python codes there that you, as a physicist who writes Python, could review. So that's where the Oxford Code Review Network comes into play. The Oxford Code Review Network enables you to find other research programmers at the University of Oxford to do code reviews with. The Code Review Network is based on a website, and this website is a GitHub repository where you can find a lot of information about the network itself, about upcoming events, but also a lot of information about code reviews themselves, how to do them, what it's about, and a set of guidelines and best practices. But more importantly, on this website, you can find a list of other people's code that you can review. And each item on this list is a discussion thread that starts with a short description of the code, a little bit of context. It contains the language, in this case Python, and then this is a place where people can, potential reviewers can have a chat with the author to just agree on a time and date to do the review. So it's a place where people can get in touch to do code reviews on that particular piece of code. You can very easily add your code to that list, and for that you would just have to open a new issue and get started and write a little bit about your code, and then your code will be added to that list, and other people can then contact you to say that they would be up to review it with you. So let me go back to the presentation. Yeah. So in the end, participating is very, very simple. If you've got some code and you would like to look for some other research programmers who could review it, then the only thing you have to do is go to the issues list on the GitHub repository and open a new issue and write a little bit about your code, and then that's it. Really, your code will be added to the list of codes to be reviewed. Now, if you want to act as a reviewer, if you want to find some code to review, then again you just browse that list and just basically leave a comment on that discussion thread saying that you would be interested to review the code, and then you just have to chat with the author to just agree on a date and time. So overall, the flow of the Code Review Network is authors open issues on the GitHub repository, and then potential reviewers, people interested in reviewing the code, can leave comments. Then everybody discuss on try to agree on and find a moment where everybody's available to do the review, and then people just go off and do the review, either in person if it's possible, or using Teams or Zoom or Jitsi or whatever video conferencing software that you want. Obviously, I want to stress that at the moment, and this is early August 2020, in-person code reviews are not that advisable, and we stick with remote code reviews. And on the same GitHub repository, if we go back to it, there is some guidelines to perform code reviews remotely. So there's a lot of information about using, for instance, Teammate to share a terminal. In that way, you can share your code by using a text-based text editor like Vim or Emacs. You could also use Visual Studio Code with the Live Share plugin that basically allows you to share your code with someone else in a way that's very similar to shared documents like Google Docs, for instance. You could also use Fluebits, which is another solution to do pair programming that basically does not depend on what text editor you use, and you can couple these to video conferencing software like Jitsi, for instance. So you can have a look at that document and obviously suggest other alternatives if you think of anything. Good, so now you're probably wondering who can participate in the network, and the answer is everybody. You could be a graduate student in inorganic chemistry, or you could be a professor of experimental psychology. That really doesn't matter. There is no expected level of experience to participate in the code review network, and your field of study really doesn't matter. Everyone is welcome to participate. The crucial point of the code review network, though, is that reviewing code and getting your code reviewed really goes hand in hand. The main idea is that you could have your code reviewed one day and review some other code or codes another day. There is no predefined set of reviewers or predefined set of code authors. Everyone is both. As an author, you benefit from a different perspective on your code and your practice, and you get an opportunity to share your knowledge, to share your tips, and even to share your problems with the reviewers. As a reviewer, you get to learn, but also to share your experience and redistribute the knowledge that you possibly acquired from your code being reviewed. Essentially, the Oxford Code Review Network enables some sort of a feedback loop in which knowledge and software skills are spread across reviewees and reviewers. So in the end, by participating individually to the Code Review Network, you participate in a collective effort that benefits you and the community as a whole. It benefits you because you get access to knowledge that would otherwise not be available to you, and it benefits the community because it enables the knowledge transfer and the collective learning that can lead to better research software, therefore better research, and more importantly, to happier researchers. Now that I've told you what it is, you can see that the Code Review Network is not a troubleshooting service, because reviewers offer insights and constructive criticism. Reviewers are not there to basically to fix your problems for you. You can also see that the Code Review Network is not a service that's run by software experts for researchers, because the Code Review Network is a collaborative effort in which everyone participates, from beginners to advanced programmers. If you're looking for a service from research software experts for researchers, then you should probably have a look at the software surgeries by the Oxford Research Software Engineering Group. These are 30-minute appointments where you can discuss your research and your research software with research software experts, with research software engineers. Now, you can also see that the Code Review Network is not an educational network that's targeted at beginner programmers, but it's also not a network that's reserved to experienced programmers. Reviewing is about active listening and starting a discussion about the code, and that's something that either beginners and advanced research programmers can do. So where do you go from there? Well, first of all, the Oxford Code Review Network website, the GitHub repository that I just showed you, is ready for use. So you could just now, as I'm talking, go to that GitHub repository, open the issue, and add your code to the list. To look for a reviewer. You could also pick a code and start reviewing. There's also a Code Review Network Slack workspace that I encourage you to join if you are interested in participating in the network. It's the place where you can get in touch with other participants. You can ask any questions you want about the network, and you can also, very importantly, you can share your ideas. You can share your suggestions to make the network better. This network is meant to be by the community, for the community, so it's not something that is set in stone, and if you want to change it, you're very welcome to do so. Lastly, starting September or October 2020, there will be code review workshops surrounding the network where participants can get together and take turn reviewing each other's code. These workshops will also be the time to have review feedback sessions and short talks about code review best practices. Obviously, that's gonna happen remotely for the time being, and that's coming up fairly soon. And hopefully, this will make the network move towards its longer-term goals. The longer-term goals of the Code Review Network is first to build an inclusive community around research software in Oxford, and to rely on that community to drive a change of culture about research software. There was a survey 2 years ago by the Oxford Research Software Engineering Group that found that among 375 researchers at Oxford, 85% considered software to be absolutely vital to their research. But as you probably noticed, the quality of research software is often overlooked. Many reasons for that. Research programmers are mostly self-taught. Software is not something that is rewarding in terms of our career, and there's often a lot of pressure pushing for short-term research outputs, for instance, if you're doing a PhD or if you're trying to grow your publications list as a postdoc. Well, overall, there are not a lot of incentives to spend the time to write better software, not to mention to learn how to write better software. But as you probably know, code that's unreadable, code that's not documented and not systematically tested, that can be a real hindrance to your research in ways that are perhaps difficult to grasp when you are a self-taught research programmer. But your research software really has the potential to greatly accelerate your research and enhance its dissemination. And as I said earlier, quality software is also a crucial step towards making your research reproducible by others, and likely by you in a couple of years' time. So the Code Review Network is there to help you make the time to think about software, and more importantly, to think about software with others, so that software skills can be spread across the community and require less individual effort to be acquired. By building a research software community, we hope that it will help realize both the importance and value of research software, and we hope that through code reviews, well, those of you who are not aware of a potentially big room of improvement will realize that first we'll realize what can be improved, how to improve it, and then spread that knowledge across by doing more code reviews with each other. If that's something that you'd like to get involved with, well, I really encourage you to visit the GitHub repository and start doing code reviews today. You can also subscribe to the mailing list to hear about upcoming events and relevant training sessions. And lastly, I'm looking forward to see you on the Slack workspace. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see many of you in a code review someday. Bye.